Hey Steph, I'm going to keep this short. I sent you this sheet. I'm digging into one of the calls from last week with Fred Schleich. I've honestly only gotten 6 minutes in, and it's enough for me to tell you some thoughts that I think will help. Um, this was the guy who is like market study research consultant. Like I said, I've only listened to 6 minutes. Let me tell you my thoughts. I want you to go back and listen to like the first, I shouldn't say six, 8 minutes. I want you to go back and listen to like the first 8 minutes of the call. Um, I may finish this one out. I may move on to another call. I'm going to see in a second. But here we go. These are my notes. The intro is good. On this one, we were actually sticking pretty close to the script. This note is for me. I think we still need to tweak the part where we talk about, towards the end of the call, we're going to introduce a program. The bit I highlighted in orange. It's just, it doesn't feel right. I got to figure out how we fix that. That one's on me. But I almost want to hear you deliver it a couple times today and go back and just listen to it some. I felt like when we were getting to that point, you were starting to add a bunch of language there, which it wasn't bad. I think we need to be careful with the length of the upfront contract, that we don't elongate it. And I have a feeling there's a part of you that's like, well, I don't want to just read from a script. I want to make it my own. I totally get that. However, I think this is something for a while. If I knew that this can be a lengthy thing to deliver, then I just try and get into it word for word as much as I can. You got to remember that if you can get to a place where you can deliver word for word copy, without them thinking you're reading it, they don't know you're reading it, and they don't know that you've delivered it 100 times in a row. So as long as you're not like, hey, Bob, before we get started, I like to kind of if you can deliver it the way that, that I was showing you, like I'll insert some ums and I'll, break it up a little bit, but I can basically read this word for word and get to a place where they don't feel like I'm reading it. I think I would do it word for word, and I don't think we need to make any apologies around that. Okay, cool. Just nailed the transition question. This question here, it's just it got us right to the point. I have a feeling that this call, if you can remember it when you listen to it, was a struggle for you, because I will admit it was tough. The first 8 minutes, because you ask. I think this is a great phone call in terms of being challenged, where if you can get past this dude, you'll get past anybody. What I mean by that is you ask the question, just pretty direct. Why don't you tell me what's going on in your business that made you want to book this call? He starts giving a ton of background and just history on his business and how he got from point A to point B, and you're kind of like, all right. And I can tell you're probably trying to figure out, what in the hell does this guy do? What's his business model? Because I'm thinking the same thing. By 5 minutes, he's kind of starting to talk about how changes in his business or changes in the market caused him to change, and he wasn't really getting into pain. And I could tell that if I look at this, even though we've done a lot more work since the time when you had this call, it's just 8 days ago, 7 days ago, whatever. Excuse me. That he's not getting into pain. He's not doing you any favors. He's not giving you some good places to go. And I made this note basically saying this area I thought was tough, because I actually rewound it to listen to his exchange again to figure out where to go, because he's just not getting to the main point. He said he hired a salesperson, and it was kind of said in passing. My next question would probably be something along the lines of, well, how's that salesperson doing? I imagine now that you've got someone full-time focusing on sales that you're moving in a positive direction. He's going to say, no, it's not moving fast enough, or we can't. He's going to say that there's a problem. I just know it. By 6:20, this is me, I think I can tell that you're reaching here, just trying to figure out, what do you do? What's the business model? All right, so you asked him who his ideal client is, and that's not a bad question. And I put notes in here. I have a feeling you're trying to figure out this guy's business model at this point in the call, because I'm trying to figure it out. if you're going to ask a question about who someone's target is, then I'd probably follow that up with, well, how do you find these people? Because I want to get him to a place where he says, like, I have difficulty. I don't know how to do it. I don't have a great system. I don't have, you know what I'm saying? Like, we want to lead him to say, like, I don't know. And so that is really the main thing, is that this is a good example of kind of like the call you and I did, where you had mentioned the confidence thing on your end, and then we got to a place where, like, yeah, that's not the real problem. Because you start asking questions about, like, you know, are you using social media? And he's like, yeah, I outsource it for people who do posting, but you can tell he's not talking about using social media to generate leads. He's just posting content and crap. And so my point is going back and listening to this call, you can tell, like, we're not along the lines of this questioning, and I have a feeling we're not, because you're still trying to figure out his business, and I wouldn't get too worried about that. At some point in the conversation, I think you just got to be like, so walk me through this clearly. What, you have these providers that are listed on their website? How much is one worth? Like, you shouldn't make an apology for being like, hold on a second, Bob, I'm just not following here. Because you're experienced. You can be an even business stature. It's like, Bob, let me just make sure I got this. Fred, let me just make sure I got this right. These clients that you sign, what's the actual service they're signing up for, and how much do you charge? Bless me. Because he is a consultant. There was a part in there where I was like, he says he's a consultant, so he's got to be having clients that they're not just like signing up for something on his website and their list. You know, it doesn't feel like an Angie's List type thing, I guess is what I'm getting at it, if he says he's a consultant. But it seems like it could be that way, but I don't think that's the case. Hopefully that makes sense. The key is trying to start getting to these questions, right? And so he's talking about, because he mentions early on, he says something like, I just don't have enough manpower. And I just have a feeling that's not going to be the case. Because then you're going to say, like, cool, do we need to review some hiring best practices? You know, do you know how to hire people correctly? He's really, what it is he doesn't have the manpower, because he's not hiring enough manpower, because he doesn't have enough sales coming through the door. And when I know that, when I see that theme repeating over and over again, I know the path that I need to take them down, which is probably that path. You don't have enough manpower, and that's causing you stress, but you can't hire anybody because you don't have enough sales to go hire another person, and you don't have enough sales because you don't have any lead gen systems in place, et cetera, et cetera. You know, if he has a salesperson, I'm kind of like, where is this salesperson getting their leads from? How many deals are they getting? You know, do they have, you know, do you have an ongoing system that generates appointments for this salesperson? And so it's not like these questions here need to be asked in this exact order, and all of them need to be asked. But if you listen to your question strategy sections on calls, and you're not seeing a lot of these questions being asked, and I could be delivering this to you way too early, because that call is 40 minutes long and I'm only listening 8 minutes in. But, you know, over the first 5 minutes, it doesn't feel like our direction is there yet. So if you end up changing, so here's the thing to know, I'll go back and find out. If you end up changing the ship's direction on this call and you start asking these questions, then you know that you're like, yeah, I changed direction because I knew I wasn't asking these questions. But if you don't, you can see why. Like, I can just tell he's not getting into pain, and it's kind of a struggle for you, because you're like, what do I ask next? He didn't give me any pain. So what do I do now? You got to dig it out. When he's saying that, he's like, because also remember, in the very beginning of the call, he also talks about that he has an interest in generating leads, even though he says his problem is manpower and bandwidth. You know, so it's in some cases people are really you have to be able to kind of maneuver through that and almost say, like, oh, hold on, Fred, let me go back on this real quick. You're saying that you're your business or the one of the main problems in your business is that you don't have enough manpower or bandwidth. But one of the things you did was sign up for this call that generally we're talking about sales and marketing systems. Those are kind of two separate things. So help me see which one is it. And I almost guarantee you what it really is that he doesn't have enough manpower because he doesn't have enough leads and sales to go get somebody to help him with what he needs to do. I have a feeling that's the case. All right, I wanted to give you this because I think this is a good example of questioning strategy. How you can encounter a call where a person is not really giving you what you need, and you have to dig it out of them. You can't be surprised from it. You can't pause. You got to be like, crap, what did they just say? How do I get them to pain? It's like sometimes you can win the chess game in 4 moves, but sometimes you're going to have to make 40 moves to win the game. Don't be surprised when you're on calls with the 40 moves. And in some cases, these people can be even better, the ones who make you make 40 moves, because they'll have a breakthrough by the end. They'll have this realization like, I'm such a dummy. Why didn't I think about this? I keep thinking that my issue is manpower, but really my issue is lead gen and sales systems. And so anyways, there you go. Okay, hopefully you get the chance to listen to this sometime today. I'll keep going and diving in on some more stuff.